Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Lamar with Intentional on Purpose, and I got my boy Ron Coleman here. Just want to introduce him. Just a little feedback. We met at this event. It was a Real Man, Real Talk event where Master P was there, and I just want to share, first of all, the power of connection. We went from being total strangers. We both got there early. We ended up setting up, and we start chopping it up, and we realized we had the same goals and the same passion. So, just first of all, I want to talk about the power of connection and the power of getting out of your comfort zone, being able to talk to another brother who looks like you and being able to connect. So just want to welcome him on, let him introduce himself, and we'll go from there.
Like you said, my name is Ron Coleman, and I'm from Columbus. I moved away for about 10 years to Buffalo, New York, and I was born in Columbus. So Columbus, I born, but I was raised out in Buffalo. And then I became a Mason out there, and that's really where I started to learn the connection of men, the power of connection, and just crossing paths with different individuals. And I came back and just really trying to find my way through this journey called life, you feel me?
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends and a lot of people I was associated with were doing a lot of the same things, and my mentality changed. You go from a younger mentality, and then you start sitting around older generational and older mindsets. You start to pick up on different gems. So my mind and my maturity level raised a lot. So then just coming back, and it was like, man, I want to be able to do something, but I was just working and just grinding, you feel me? And then this last year, I think God really did a lot of things, and he's doing something in this season for a lot of men. And just being connected with God, and then also starting to listen to what he's telling you, and the things he's doing within our circles. I was going through a rough patch in my life, probably one of the roughest that I probably ever kind of like dealt with. But in that season, I was able to connect with the men in my church. And that just was like a powerful feeling, because the things I was struggling with, I had other men that was like, look, you may be dealing with this, but take it to God, and then start to mimic what he says, and believe in what he says in the word. And that just kind of like stirred the fire up. Like,
and that's dope that you said that, for real, because like that's really my purpose when I do what I do. Is men really don't talk, we hold a lot in. So for you to say you had connection with men is important, because like I mentioned, we really didn't even know each other. I mean, we went from being complete strangers to now we linking up and chopping it up. But it's when you see something in somebody, or you realize you can't do this thing alone. And I think a lot of people want to be a boss, and I think Master P said that too. He said everybody want that what was it, that kingpin mentality. You know what I mean? They want to be the boss, they want to be that guy, and they don't want anybody to help them, or they don't want to help anybody along the way. And I know he said a lot of great things, which hit both of us when he talked about really supporting people with no benefit to you at the beginning. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we want to connect with somebody who's already got all the answers, or somebody who always got money in the game, or already got something going on. But we really want to connect with people to just really help them out. You know what I mean? Especially in our community. Like, you see another black man, and we always on some competition stuff, or how can I get what he had, or being jealous. And it's dope that you said that with men in the church. We got to help each other build, but first we got to heal ourselves, and in healing ourselves, we're able to help the other generation. You know, so I mean, how important is that for you to have other men around you? Or like, did you go to them, or did they come to you? How did that relationship happen?
So it really came. It came to me because we have connect groups at our church, Strong Point Church out on East, who is in Maplewood. But in that season, we had that men's connect group, and that connect group, we just came and we had food, we sat down, broke bread together, and then we go off of, we have videos that we kind of set up for each connect group. So this one was Tony Evans, Kingdom Men, and that just unpacking that and just hearing what he was like. Tony Evans, you know,
I've been through a couple of them series,
break it down, and your mind just started like, oh,
and you can't hide from it too. Like, as men, you want to hide behind certain stuff, but when you confront it with something that you're dealing with, you know what I mean, it's good to have that support system. Because I know for me growing up, I rarely saw men cry. I really saw men in my family break down or talk about real issues. It's easy for us to talk about sports, women, who's the best, Kobe or LeBron, who's the GOAT. We talk about surface stuff, but it's layers when we talk about healing or our upbringing. And you know what I mean? And we got to find safety first and security. Like, can I trust this man when I'm opening up to him? Is he going to use that against me? But real talk, a lot of times we don't even realize what we're going through. So it's hard for another man to help us because we don't really take time out for ourselves to stop and be like, man, I need help or I need to heal.
Like sometimes really you don't have that space too, you know, because like it's always we lock. So what I learned, like you said, we went through the African American Male Wellness Organization, and there was I've been sitting in the committee meetings with them and just tapping into different resources with that organization, and they had one through Ohio State called the STAR training, and it was basically like traumas, and it really broke down traumas in a different light that I have never seen. Like really, childhood trauma ultimately locks us into survival mode, and we're just constantly in survival mode over and over and over. And it was like there's certain key factors that children need growing up that ultimately takes the course of their life to different directions, and that's just stability, a house, security, being able to come home and feel comfortable in your home space versus a lot of us, I didn't feel comfortable in my home. I got locked into survival mode at 7 years old. And from 7, I just been trying to make it day after day after day after day after day after day. And then it was like when I got to a place where I was like, hold on, I'm struggling with something. Like this just ain't me. And then my wife kind of like shined the light in the area. It was like, well, this is what you kind of need to focus on. Go to therapy. And then when I started going to therapy, then that just opened up the can of worms. And I'm like, okay, I've been struggling with this, but now I'm in a space, I'm coming from survival into healing. And that's where we need to get a lot of our men in, from surviving into healing. And that's when the power of God takes over. And then, like you said, we start to make those connections. Like,
but let me ask you this real quick. When you got to that point, was it like a breakdown moment, or did you just finally realize it? Because I know you said your wife had a part to play in that. Was it like, did you come to a point where you were just like, man, I can't do this no more? Like, when did you realize you've been in survival mode your whole life?
It's something I kind of always knew, but like, it's something about your significant other. If you got somebody in your corner that actually sees you for you, they start to really break that down. And a lot of times for us, we get defensive when somebody, it feels like an attack, you know what I'm saying? Like you're attacking my character. Like, I've been doing this, you know what I'm saying, all my life. You ain't about to tell me I ain't doing what I need to do. And then it wasn't until I really started to listen to what she was saying that I really started to really kind of like reflect. Like, we keep going through these same cycles over and over and over, and it's like, something got to give. And like, if she's giving and I'm just continuing in the same cycle, then it's just going to keep happening. And then a lot of relationships ultimately turn towards divorce because it's like, I don't want, you know what I'm saying? It's too much. You know what I'm saying?
See, I love the way this is going. I love having real conversations. We don't even know what we're talking about, but like just last night, me and my wife had a long talk, and I began to realize it's easy for me to kind of listen to other people, and then when it comes to my wife, I kind of get familiar, so my facials may change or I may look uninterested, and I had to realize that, and she brought that to me, and instead of me getting defensive, I had to check myself and apologize, because like I'm engaged with you, listening to you or whatever, but sometimes with my wife or significant other, you feel like you already know what she's about to say, or as a husband, we want to fix the situation instead of just sit there and listen. So I'm still learning. I had to learn. I got to respect my wife enough to be interested in what she's saying, not just listen for a rebuttal. And that's dope as a man that you said that, because I'm going to be honest with you. Before we even met, one thing you said really touched me, and I knew what type of man you was when I asked to link up or what your schedule was like. And I think one of the first things you said was, well, let me check with my wife and see how we can arrange the kids. And right there, I was like, I like this dude, because you was a family-oriented man first, where a lot of dudes would be like, man, I'm going to just set this date and I'm going to just go with it. That showed me you took pride in your wife and in your family, and you wanted to make the proper arrangements to make sure that they was good before you made a move. And a lot of dudes don't do that, because I do the same thing. So as soon as you said that, it just showed me a different level of respect for you right off the bat. Like, man, he's really a family man.
Yeah.
You know.
And like you said, it's something I learned. You feel me? Like for so long as I have been into that, oh, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, but then it just like you don't see how much that affects the other person. Like my wife, she's a cosmetologist and she's been doing it for a while now, and she goes to work from about 8 to 5, and then it's just like kids, and then it's like I want to be able to help balance that, you know, like we both take on shared responsibilities in this relationship, and like a lot of times that weight shifts to our wife. You know what I'm saying? And they carry so much, and we wonder why they mad and why they run around and attitudes and they frustrated, and we just like, oh man, it's just another day, and like, nah, she's carrying about 85% of that load right now, while you maintaining 15%.
Right. And I'm gonna add to that too, because it's like, just to be all the way 100, our wives work, and then they come home and their work don't stop. Where I know a lot of men, we go to work, we come home, and then our day stop. We want to chill, we want to watch sports, we want food to be cooked, and then being real, we still want sex, we want to be intimate. You know what I mean? We expect that. It's like, I work from 9 to 5, I come home, I want something to eat, I should be able to chill, kick my feet up, and then when I want you, I should be able to have sex with you. And the wife's job never stops. She goes to work, then she comes home, she's in mom mode, then she got to think about us and whatever else she's thinking about. And this is real as men, because we can have that one-track mind if we don't pull the weight. You know what I mean? Like, I know how it is where I see my dad, you know, rest in pieces. He would work, he was an excellent provider, but when he came home, it's like, all right, he gonna hit the gym, he gonna do karate, and then my mom's doing the dishes, she's doing the grocery shopping, and it's like, you said that dual responsibility. You know, it is no set roles. I should be able to be like, babe, I got the dishes. Babe, let me go ahead and grocery shop with you. Let me go ahead and cook with you. And what I show is that builds that intimacy with me and my wife. It's like, for real talk, the more I help my wife and the more I do, the more she wants to do for me. And that's the thing. Men want to sit here and demand sex or demand intimacy, but it's like, the more I take off of her plate, the more she's like, man, I got time to desire you. Or it's fulfilling to her, because now she's looking at me like, dang, he's stepping in his role, going above and beyond. He's taking things off of my plate, so now I can be intimate with him. I can even think that way. You know, we got to think about how women want. So you said some stuff that hit me, because I lived through that as well. And it's like, the more you do it, but the thing is, I wasn't taught. I learned by trial and error. So as men, how do we know that? You know what I mean? Like, how that become something that you start doing?
More so just trying to understand those feelings and that frustration coming from my wife. It was just her like, man, I need you to be a leader. Like, I want you to lead this family, and I'm tired of leading, because, to be honest, women they've been leading for years, like generations. Like, you feel like we've been taken out of the picture, and think of how much responsibility has been put on the women to really hold that household down. Like, and then it's like, I'm a man in a sense, and okay, so like you said, with my father, I've seen him. He was a married man. He's been married for about 25 years. It was just a constant routine of watching him work, and pay the bills, but paying the bills ain't leading. You know what I'm saying? It's a part of your responsibility, but that's not leading, because you're not sharing that responsibility. You think, okay, since I pay the bills, everything else is just supposed to be going. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything else, but what you want? You got your bills paid, your hair done, your nails done. But nah, she going to work. She's taking care of the kids, like you said. She's having to cook, then coming home cleaning, and then not really being able to really process her own internal journey, or what she's dealing with, or frustration she's been dealing with, and it's like, now you wonder why she mad, and like you said, you arguing, and then you're not getting no sex, and then you just get mad, and now you frustrated.
Like, vicious cycle. Like, the thing is too, it's really layers to it. Like, I know my wife wants me to be her friend, wants me to be the priest, provider, protector, husband, and there's growth, and that's my thing. Like, I should always be growing, and I should always be learning. Like, one thing I told my wife is, I'm gonna never stop studying you. And it seems dope when you dating, because it's like, dang, this dude said he never gonna stop learning me. But then when you married, it's easy to get comfortable, or it's easy to forget. So it's like I always want to be in tune with what she's saying. I always want to listen. And for real talk too, the Holy Spirit is important because there's things the Holy Spirit would teach me that no other man could teach me. You know, there's things that I didn't get from my dad or didn't get from other men. And I'm like, man, it'd be dope if I had a godly man as an example. Or it'd be good if I had a man to show me how to do this. And because we don't, we use that as a crutch. Like, well, I just don't know how to be a man, but I know how to provide.
Yeah.
But it's when you ask the Holy Spirit or you ask other godly men, you can learn from people's examples. So it's good, I mean, because we just learning each other, but we saying the same thing. And as men, if we realize when we connect with other people and put God in the equation, we become better.
Yeah, and that's where, like, my pastor he really shine a light on that area, just wanting to be more connected with the men. And then it was like, for so long, the men, we really weren't connecting, but then it wasn't until we started to connect that our lives started to change.
Yeah.
Everybody in that season, like I said, when we had that connect group, everybody was going through a season in their life.
Yeah.
And it was like we came together at the right time. It was like the right mix, the right ingredients for God to be like, all right, now it's time to start stirring this pot.
Yeah.
And then we started connecting that way, and then we took a trip out to, I think, West Virginia for a guys' night they got out there in the church, just following my pastor. He connected with so many different churches that he started to travel a lot more, and he's bringing us with him. And we went out there for dude night, and it was just like, it was nothing but men out here, and it was like, we get so caught up in like it's being black, we got to connect with black men, but it's past that because humanity and God surpasses any type of color, you know what I'm saying, or who you are, or what race you come from. It's like we all here together. We breaking bread together, we talking about God, and we getting that vision to see that this is, for men, it's a calling to change. We got to create that change, especially the kingdom, man. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you said that. Like, I'm gonna just ask you this: how uncomfortable was it for you to connect with men? Because I know how it is with men, especially when you don't know somebody. Like, again, we connected off of just being willing to talk to one another, being willing to dap each other up and say, "What's up, bro? How you doing?" and communicate. But sometimes we so guarded, we get around other men, we feel intimidated, or we feel like, nah, I'm not about to say nothing to him or whatever. Like, was it uncomfortable with you getting around those other men?
Not really. For me, it was just getting out of my own way. Because so many times the Holy Spirit is speaking to you, and you hear that voice in your head, like somebody asks you to share, and then you just sitting there, you sitting back, and everybody just quiet, and it's like God's telling you, speaking to you, and it's like, get out. And then once I started to really open up, then that's when I really started to see that I ain't alone. Like, I'm not going through this alone. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not dealing with my marital issues alone. It's 4 or 5, maybe 10 other guys that have been in the same situation that got so many different perspectives and so many different tools that you gain. Like, look, man, you know what I'm saying? You gain so many different tools. Now I'm like, okay, so I can add that to that. Now you said, like you said, your wife it's like a shift. Your wife, she becomes happier. Y'all start talking more. Y'all start doing more.
Because we in our place. Like, I feel the Holy Spirit all over this. Because like when you talking, it's like when men get in their place, things change. I think about different cultures, for real. You think about the Samoan culture, or you think about maybe the African culture, or other cultures that's not here. Men are powerful. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think about how the Samoans, I think that's a culture, they may do a dance, and all the men, they up there, and they not afraid to, you know what I mean, shout and do that. But sometimes you see us and we just step back and we allow our insecurities to take the best of us. And you said something too, it's not just black men. I love that, because my wife is big on that. Like, why does everything we do have to be black only? You know what I mean? Like, I get our culture needs help, but we got to connect with every race, every man. And it is hard enough for us because we look at black men like the enemy, so we definitely not want to talk about the white man or anybody. When you a kingdom man, it's about kingdom. Everything's not about black or white, it's about kingdom. So I just felt that when you said that, like, God used man, and if the men get back in their rightful place, there's nothing we can't do. You look all throughout the Bible when he talked about, let me make man in our own image. He spoke to man and gave man the vision. But we sit back here now and we allow our insecurities to allow us to step back, and we be fearful as men, and we allow the women to do everything. So it's dope that you said that, because we got to take our place back. You know what I mean? If I'm not the authority in my home, I can't say anything to my wife or my kids. It all falls down to us. And I think I'm glad you said that in the beginning, because it's like we got to look at our home, our family, and everything we go through and take accountability.
That's where it starts.
You know what I mean? We blaming our wife. It start with us.
At your table. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's really where you start to really get that mindset to build off of outside of your table. Like, if my family can't come together, I can't bring anybody else together.
Yeah.
And then it's like once I started connecting with the men, and then it's just one connection after another, and after another, and after another, and it's like led up to African American male wellness, and then it's like these things is free. Like,
yeah,
right. Why are we not doing this? Like, it's free to do it. We ain't no money that's coming out of our pocket. Yeah, donation just to give to the cause, but or just sitting down and talking to each other, man, we could change lives just having conversations.
Yeah, and it's just building ourselves. Like, if I wasn't in the place of building myself, I would have never been at that event to be able to meet you. And that's the thing. You got to step out and start somewhere. And I think we talked about that the other day, like stepping out in faith, even as a man. Like, sometimes you don't know what your next move is. You know what I mean? So I kind of want to shift and talk about that, like being uncomfortable. I know there was times in my life where, just give a brief synopsis, the Holy Spirit told us, man, I need to move to Texas. I literally packed up everything. We moved to Texas for a few years. I ended up going out, doing some things, got a divorce, and then moved back. I told myself I'd never come back. But we kind of talked about that. When the Holy Spirit leads you, you go out of obedience, and you never know where he's taking you or why. But as a man, you got to have that vision and that ability to hear the Holy Spirit, because the places he's taking me and leading me, I can't do it on my own. And the connections he's giving me is for him. Yeah. You know what I mean? So as men, sometimes it looks like you're losing something, but you're gaining. And I know there's many a times where I prayed for a job or a position and it got turned down, or God said no, but it ended up opening up something else for me. Yeah. Or it looked like an opportunity was a job loss, or it looked like I lost the job, but it allowed me to have the freedom to do something else. Yeah. So I kind of want to just talk about that. Have you ever been in that position where you feel like, I don't know where my next move is coming from, but as a man of faith, you just trust God?
Throughout my whole life, for real. I'm being honest and transparent. Like, it's hard to it's not hard for me to open up about my past, but it becomes hard for people, like my parents and my family, kind of to digest my past. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not blaming anybody for the decisions made or things that I've been through, you feel me? But that ultimately showed me that I can trust in God, because like I said, I've been surviving on my own since I was 7 years old. Both my parents was addicted to drugs, heavy drugs, and life takes different turns when people are dealing with that world, and you feel me? Like, my dad was able to heal and get better from it, but ultimately that impacted my childhood to where I was in the system at children's service, I was homeless, I was going from house to house, and that was just so much to take in as a kid. But I just always kept that prayer, because to say, God, wherever you lead me, I'm going to follow. Yeah. And that was since an early young kid, and then it's just been consistent. Like, I've been through so many different things and so many different situations where I was able to walk away from it and not be impacted as much than somebody else going through it. You know what I'm saying? Like, for a lot of kids, when they deal with their parents on drugs, they ultimately create that same cycle. Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to create that same cycle, so let me step out of that. Okay, I've been able to step out of that, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm going through this and that, you know, and it's like, well, it's just crazy how everything just ultimately work out. Yeah. Why you just keep going and having the faith that
and it's almost like you're not making excuses too for what you go through. Like, I think we all can make excuses for what we've been through, but you look back on it and say, man, I've been through the fire and I don't smell like smoke. And that scripture gets real when you realize it had to happen. I remember when I was just sitting there listening to God, man, and he told me everything I've been through, it had to happen, because my experiences led me to the man I am today, and it all points me to him.
And I gotta give back. Like,
yeah,
I just believe whatever I went through is for somebody else.
yeah,
Like my experience and things I've been able to, and the traumas I've been into, it's ultimately for somebody else.
yeah.
And like now that I'm in this space to really like you said, step out on his faith. Now I'm seeing it. Like there's so many different topics that we talk about, like mental health, but there's a lot of things that go into mental health that we just now are starting to unpack. Like mental health is one thing, but it's a part of stress. There's so many different factors of stress that we don't pay attention to. There's like 9 different factors of stress that we deal with in our lives, and we just focus on key areas, but not really understanding that it's a chart. Like it's 100%. Like mental health is about 50%, but then you got your household, then you got your work life, and then your own self. Like you get hard on yourself because you're like, man, I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and my life should have been this and should have been that. And it's like, be patient, because no matter what you want to do, ultimately, if you stay the course, it's going to get there. It might not happen for 10 years, but you look up in 10 years, now you like, whoa,
and it's starting somewhere
this is
too.
real.
Like, as I hear you saying it, I hear like, I always heard you got to get alone until you're not alone anymore. I think the scariest place to be as a man sometimes is alone, because you face with your thoughts, what you're thinking. Yeah, you know what I mean? And it forces you to reflect, to sit back, and whatever thought come in your head, you got to deal with that, bro. You know, and I talk about my wife, we talk all the time about casting certain thoughts out, because as men, we constantly thinking about stuff all the time. And if it's your thought or a godly thought, cool. But if it's not, you need to cast that thing down, you know, and really think about what you're thinking about. But being alone, you know what I mean, helps you to heal. Because like you said, you think about your past, your childhood, your stresses, your future, what you're doing right now, where you're trying to go. But it's just taking that step, one step at a time. And I know, like, me and my wife, we talk about this every day, being intentional and on purpose. Like, that's the reason we do what we do. Because when we got married, God said, y'all gonna be intentional and on purpose about your relationship, about breaking generational curses. And that's why this is important to me. And I know you had a thing that's called live life. When you have a goal, when you have something you're aiming towards, it's easy for you to get up day to day. So I kind of want you to just talk about, like, what does live life? You know what I mean? Where did that start from, and what's that mean to you?
For me, I'm big on my history, so I love just digging deep into about just the history of where we come from. And Live Life started out I wanted to kind of start it out as a t-shirt line, just to kind of bring homage and just show awareness to the sacrifices made from the older generation, that their sacrifices don't go left unheard, or their sacrifice didn't mean nothing, because there were so many different sacrifices made for us to be in the time we are in now. And I feel like we should be a lot further than what we are now. We should, like, if you listen to Marvin Gaye and you listen to that music in the 60s and 70s, you can take that music and put that in this era and today, and everything will, it just sounds like it's from the same era. It's like nothing's changed, but there were sacrifices in that time that were made for us to progress. And then I just wanted to bring homage to those sacrifices. And then I was just kind of like really just holding it in, just kind of like really trying to map it out. And then as the years went by, it just became something that I want to be able to create and put my name next to those individuals. Not just show homage to those individuals and say this is somebody that did it. It was like I want to be right next to them when they say, well, Martin Luther King and Ron Coleman and these brothers came together. And then when you start to reflect on, just like you said, you learn so many different perspectives and different things in life. It was like Live Life is just, I want to be able to connect with individuals to help them live their best life. Like, whatever you need, whatever you want to do, whatever your desire to be in life, let me be a part of it. Like, not to say let me be a part of it, but I want to join in with you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to be an artist, well, I got 10 different artists that I know that they don't care about the money. They come in here and we can spend 2-3 hours and really just help you sharpen your iron. Like, okay, I used to draw, but I don't know how to paint. Well, he been painting for 15 years. Sit with bro and y'all connect. And then that's just another way of living life. Like, you don't have to be so isolated. Well, I gotta work and so locked into what you don't have that you don't tap into what you can have. Like,
yeah. And I think sometimes you gotta just, I keep hearing this, be uncomfortable. You gotta make it happen. Like, we make time for this today. We could have easily sat back and you know how men do, yeah, man, let's chop it up or let's get together. Weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and we never do anything. You gotta be intentional about your time and about being uncomfortable and about doing things. Like, everybody got 24 hours in a day. Carve that time out. One for God, you know what I mean? And then for yourself, and then for your family, because you go and work, you know what I mean? I think we talked about that. You can give so much of your time to a company and then you get laid off or you get fired or you investing in another man's dream. You know, I know we all had dreams and goals and visions in us, and I've had multiple jobs over the years. I've done so many things, and it wasn't until I've heard no so many times or been in positions where I've been moved and shifted where God is like, okay, now you're unemployed, or now you have the perfect time to do what I've called you to do, or you can go apply to another job, or you can go apply somewhere else. So he'll create that space of uncomfortableness for you to be able to step into that, you know, and it takes us as being intentional about connecting with people or wanting to get around other people and get out of our own way. It's a lot of people I know, man, who just make excuses, and it's like, man, I done sent you so many links for jobs, I done sent you so many connections, but you'd rather do this instead of doing that.
It's easier to do the easy thing, not the hard thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can go do that, but then it's gonna take me. Well, I gotta go this, that, and third to get there, and it's like, well, step one is really ultimately just making it this first step to say, this is a decision I'm gonna make and I want to do. Like you said, you get caught up in these jobs. Man, I quit my job, and I step out on faith. Like, I know I can make money with my hands. I know I can do these things, and it's like, why am I going to this company? It's not for everybody. You feel me? You got to work to get there, but you know what I'm saying? I'm giving this company 80 hours of my life, and this is every 2 weeks, and I'm only receiving some bread I really could have made in 2, 3 days, 4 days. You know what I'm saying? And then I started to really reflect on that relationship with my kids. Like, my daughter's in Buffalo. You feel me? She come in here every summer. I've been working for the last 5 summers, so from 7 in the morning till about 5 in the afternoon, my daughter's having to go somewhere else. You feel me? While she's here, and then when I come home, I'm tired. I don't really have the energy to really kind of like pour in and do things with her. So that was just really eating away at me. It's like, I want to create something different. Like, man, I want to be able to have a Monday off or a Tuesday off to really just say, hey, me and you, we're going to sit down, we're going to go out, have breakfast, we're going to go to a movie, go shopping, whatever you want to do, just because that's being intentional about that time, because we see now time ain't guaranteed.
It ain't. Like, I'm telling you, when my father passed unexpectedly, I realized time waits for nobody. Like, to me, my whole world stopped that day. The last couple of weeks and hours, you still people see kicking it, hanging out. I'm missing my dad, thinking about it, and it's like the world doesn't stop. Like, you know what I mean? Time does not stop. So you're right about that. Like, you got to be intentional about that. And sometimes I think we don't want to do the groundwork. Like, it takes time. It's going to take effort. Everything's not going to happen at once. You know, when we went to that thing with Master P, he said that sometimes your investment is your time and you ready for the payoff. Like, if me and you go to do something right now, the average person gonna be like, when am I getting paid? Am I gonna get paid today? And I can hit you like, nah, man, you invest right now. Once we get this started, the investment's gonna come. And he talked about multiple, generations or other cultures who do that. They buy in and they help each other, and then when the investment come, they got generational wealth. We get to the point where it's like, bro, I work for you today. I want to see my bread right now. Like, I got my family to feed. We don't think long term enough. We don't like, man, I'm a sacrifice, or I'm gonna help this brother out, or I'm gonna do something for free, or I'm gonna just support him because I want to support him, because as a people we gonna grow. It's always about us on some selfish stuff. Like, it's about me and my family instead of our culture. You know, so you said something about just creating that space for you to be able to spend time with your family or do something you want to do.
You know, like this right here, this is really pouring into that vision. To say, I'm connecting with you, and we building this connection up. Ain't no telling where this connection can go. You feel me? And then once we get it out there and really like connecting with different, like it was free, like we got to meet Master P for free. Like, you know what I'm saying? We broke bread. We ate good. We had a good time.
We got free game. Like, he put us up on some stuff that many people wouldn't get. Like, I remember listening to him years ago, you know what I mean, just I'm about it and all that other stuff. But now he's putting us up on some business tips. And again, we went there for free because we wanted to invest in ourselves. And the knowledge he gave us is something that we can help inspire other people with. And he didn't have to do that. That was, like you said, that was a free event. It didn't cost us anything, but it helped give us something. So we should be doing the same thing with the knowledge we get.
Yeah, shout out to them brothers at African American Male Wellness for sure, because they've been opening the doors, and like they just really shined the light that showed me that my vision can become a reality. Because like just to see the founder, really Dr. what's his name, Mr. Gregory, Mr. Gregory, like for that man to be blind and be able to put in the work, there's no excuses.
We make too many
nobody
excuses.
Like, you know what I'm saying, like. And then just having them call me up, hey man, we got this X, Y, and Z event come out. And it's like, okay, I'm about to go out.
And sometimes that's what it takes, like connecting with people who's already doing something and not wanting anything in return. And then making those connections yourself, because they always tell you network. So we don't really know how to do that too as a culture. You know what I mean? I've been in certain places and it's easier to network with strangers than it is your family, but we got to come together and really be on some supportive stuff. But it takes that healing we talked about earlier. You can't support nobody if you ain't healed on your own, because you're always going to be selfish, or you're always going to want to take, or you're always going to be on guard. Like, man, I don't know this brother, so I don't trust him. And it's like, you got to let all that go, give it to God, and say, it's bigger than us. We talked about our wives and our kids. What we're doing here is allowing us to be better men. Then we be better husbands and better fathers. So it's like, man, it's
in our communities
needed.
It's definitely needed, because the cry for it, you know what I'm saying? This is free, but like, think how many people that don't see this, you know what I'm saying? It's like shining the light. They're like, hey, this is something possible, and this is something that can happen. And especially with the women doing it a lot, men need to be able to back our women.
Right.
You know
I'm glad you said that, for real. Like, I respect you as a man, because there's not a lot of men that I know who love their wives the way you do, or who talk about their wives the way, you know what I mean? Because as men, we have such an ego. I love my wife to death, man, and I've been divorced, so having her, I feel like I have a new lease on life. I know what it is to have a partner and a friend and somebody I can really be there with. And as men, sometimes we don't see that. I know for me growing up, for real too, women were something to be conquered. Every dude in my family would ask me, man, how many girls you getting? Where the women at? I wasn't taught how to respect women. I wasn't taught how to love women. I wasn't taught how to have one woman and build with her. We taught to just cheat or get multiple women, or this is what dudes are supposed to do. You know what I mean? So to meet another man who talks about honoring their wife, that's impressive to me, man, because we don't hear a lot about them principles. And it's sad, for real.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I learned that from my pastor, just seeing my pastor, the way he loved the first lady of our church, and how intentional he is about that, and they're open and about it. And you just see that reflection, and it's just like you start picking up on certain things. You're like, okay, yeah, I like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and you know what I'm saying? I like that. I like how he said that, how he did that, and then you just see the relationship, really how connected they are from that. And it's like, and not just for my wife. It's like, my wife is really somebody that's really just been able to see me for me and told me about it. For so long, like I said, I've been bucking up against it, and it was like, okay, let me listen. And then once I started to listen, it really started to unpack not just our relationship, but the relationship with my daughter's mother. It became a lot better because of how we communicate in our relationship, that really started to shine light in other different relationships and how I handle certain different things. That's really just been like, then once you start talking and you start to communicate, and then you just see like all these things like really just go to the wayside just based off of communication. And we just didn't have the right tools to communicate effectively for it to grow.
That's a big key, for real, because it's like you have a whole, and I'm not like the most handiest person, but you think about, you got a whole toolbox, but all you use is a hammer and a screwdriver. And it's like, it's silly. You know what I mean? Because the hammer and the screwdriver ain't always gonna get the job done. And as men, we got a whole toolbox at our disposal, but we only use what we know. It's like, man, give me that hammer or give me that screwdriver. We never get taught how to use it. Somebody else may learn how to use the wrench, we don't ask for help. Like, hey, how do you use this? How do you use that? And I know you kept saying toolbox, and I thought about that too. Like, we need to add to our toolbox. By going to those free events, we add it to our toolbox. We never know when we're going to need it. By me chopping it up with you, I'm added to my toolbox. But as men, we sit back, we want stuff handed to us. Like, man, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. Invest in yourself. There's so many different free avenues and free things out there. It doesn't cost to pray. It don't cost to go to church. It don't cost to have a relationship with God. It doesn't cost to benefit or help another brother out or just to talk. I mean, me and you talking right now is therapeutic for me because I'm learning. And I realize we're not the only man dealing with what we're dealing with. So we can help each other out. Like, man, that toolbox is important.
Yeah, it's funny you said the toolboxes. I got a brother, step brother, but that's like my brother. Like, beginning, we just bumped heads because we both came into blended family. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my mom, that's my dad. But as our relationship grew, it just became stronger and stronger. And that's just the person I really just been talking throughout these years. And he challenged me. He was like, bro, I hear you talk about so many different things and what you're going through, bro. And it's like, I gotta challenge you. Like, you got all these tools, bro, and you know it. Like, why is your tool set shiny? Like, your tool set is just shining. You ain't put no work in, and it's like, okay, let me start to pull these tools out and really, like you said, just use different ones, and then pick up different ones, and then just sit back and be like, wow, I'm sitting here talking to bro, and like our connection really just been good because I told my wife, like, bro, kind of in the same situation I'm in, and like we crossed paths at the right time, and it's like, ain't no telling where this gonna go.
And with that toolbox too is like, if I got a tool that you need, I can hand that off to you, and that's what it is too. Like, hey man, let me go ahead and borrow that tool because I see how it works. Exactly, like I see how that tool worked for you, so let me go ahead and pass it off to you. That's the power of the toolbox too. Like, I mean, you can rent the mugs, you give the mugs out for free. So it's just utilizing what's in your toolbox and knowing when you don't know how to use one, asking for help or being able to be willing for that. You know what I mean? Like, and just putting in that work. Like, that's a hard word for some people. You got to work. Anything you want to do is work. You know what I mean? This took work. It took time out, us setting it up, but it's worth it. You know, then we can go about our day and we leave feeling better. So, man, that's
the thing that helped me was just really tapping into therapy. Personal therapy and then marriage counseling ultimately changed the trajectory of my relationship with my wife too, because like you said, you go into these therapy sessions and you gain so many different tools on how to communicate, how we're communicating. For so long, we've been our communication style has really just been hectic because we didn't understand communication the right way. Like how you start out a conversation is ultimately how your conversation is going to end. So if you come in a conversation aggressive, it's only going to go one way, you know. But once we start to learn the different tools of having a softer approach on our communication, even if we're frustrated or something that we're mad about, it's just really being intentional to say, okay, let me calm down before I have the conversation, and then come in with a soft tone and say, and then I can listen to you, because if you bucking at me, I can't hear nothing you saying, you know what I'm saying? Because now I'm a buck back, and now we listen to nothing we said. Now we both just trying to argue our own points, and like, no, take some time. I think one was called being a listener and a speaker. So allowing that person to have uninterrupted time to talk and express what they need to express, and that whole time you just listen. And when you start to listen,
I mean, it's not really hard, but I think like it's a lot of men, like men listening is, you gotta be intentional about what you want. If you want a better relationship with your wife, you want a better marriage, or you want a better relationship with your kids, there's certain things you have to learn how to do. You can't always be the authoritative one. Sometimes you gotta sit back and say, it's time for me to be quiet. Like, again, I'm listening to my wife, and I hear the Holy Spirit, just listen. She don't need you to fix nothing. Just listen. And then I'm like, cool, because now I know I don't got to try to fix the problem. I don't have to say nothing. She just need me to listen. Then there's other times where he may say, okay, now I need you to do this. And even in our relationship with our kids, anything is, we got to learn how to check ourselves. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like, man, maybe I am communicating wrong. because I'm a counselor, but I'm still learning. Like, just because I'm a counselor don't mean I utilize the tools that I give to everybody else. Yeah. Or just because I'm a teacher don't mean I'm always, you know what I mean? I'm still learning. So my thing is I got to utilize what I'm telling everybody else to do. Yeah. And there's times where I really got to step back and say, am I doing what I'm telling everybody else to do? Am I really able to sit back and say, you know what type of outcome do I want? So maybe I do need to sit back and chill and check my communication or whatever. But as men, it's easy. It's hard to do sometimes.
Well, we need people in our lives that's going to correct us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I sit here and I see you off track, who are you allowing to correct you? You know what I'm saying? For the longest, my wife's been correcting me, and it's like, I ain't been listening. It's like, I'm bucking against that. You know what I'm saying? But that's been the one person that sees me outside of everybody else. She's with me day to day, night in, night out. You know what I'm saying? I come home to her, I leave from her, and then we come back together, and she sees that side of me that outside of myself, I can't see these things because I'm just doing what I know and thinking it's right, and it's like, well, nah, you slipped right there.
Yeah.
Like,
that's dope. I feel like I don't know. I've been on this toxic relationship kick. Like, it's a lot of people. I don't want to always say toxic relationships, but you in a relationship to where you're always arguing because you can't accept correction. Like just the other day, me and my wife had a conversation. She corrected me on something, and I had to sit there and be like, "You're right." And then she asked me, "Okay, how are you doing with that?" And you need them real check-ins, because when I start rebuttaling or bucking up, obviously I ain't healed from it, or I'm feeling some type of way, and I got to check them emotions. And your wife is the closest person to you, because for the longest, there's so many people who would praise me because of what I did. Like, I serve in church, I'm a counselor, I'm a teacher, so they automatically assume that I was good, or they see me on the outside. My wife seen sides of me, and she's like, nah, bro, you ain't. Yeah, like, nah, bro, they praising you for this, but they don't see this. And I had to sit back and say, wow, you know what? You're right. Because even men in my life, they weren't close enough to me to check me in those areas. But I would always look for that. I would always crave for correction or crave for, what does God do to you? Chastening, you know what I mean? And I was like, when you don't have somebody in your life who does that because everybody thinks you cool, you start believing the lie, or you start even believing the things you're going through. So when my wife started checking me in those areas, it was a light to say, dang, she loved me enough to correct me respectfully. She's not correcting me disrespectfully, but she's letting me know she sees something in me. Now it's for me to change that and to thank her.
And the decision to stay by your side, too.
Right.
Like, to me, boy, I give up. Like, I've been talking to dude within 5 years. We've been going through the same thing. Like, ain't nothing happening. I'm ready to check out. And it's like, nah, I don't want to look back with regret. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, that regretting is the biggest, I think the hardest thing you have to do in life is if you look back and you start like, man, and then you start to reflect on your own decisions and things you've done. You're like, man, that was me. And like, man, I wasn't listening. Now, probably the greatest thing you ever had probably just slipped away from you. And now you watching her with somebody else. Like,
and that's the thing too, is like putting in that work now so you don't got to have those regrets later. Like, I always think about that. Like, what I don't give my wife or do for my wife, somebody else will. If I don't listen intently, you know what I mean, somebody else will. And when she tells me something, I got to take time to think about it and then to come back. Like, I mean, just the other day when she told me how she felt, the way she communicated, and I always have some type of attitude, I could have easily had an attitude about that. Like, man, what do you mean? I'm your husband. I listened to you. I gave you advice, yada, yada, yada. But I had to recently, like, dang, she told me how she really felt. Obviously, it's something that I'm doing that's making her feel that way. So let me tell her first, I understood what you said, and I'm gonna go ahead and check that.
And that's power in that, because all feelings are valid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? A person feels is how they feel. How you made them feel is valid to how they feel, how they process it. And like, for a lot of times, well, I ain't mean it that way. And you always taking things the wrong way. And like, you trying to tell somebody how to feel or what they should have felt when you gave them something to feel a different way. And it's like, man, nah, like you said, you start to unpack that, you start to look back, and it's like, man. And ultimately, it really, I love my wife for it, but ultimately, it was for myself. Like, this is self-care. Like, I'm coming into self-care. I'm healing for myself so I can be better for somebody else. Like, if I can't check my own oxygen, how am I gonna save you?
Right. There's a video I watched, I think I shared it a couple of days ago, where this man, he was talking about accountability. He was talking about he was selfish, he was self-centered. And we talking about this and we didn't even have this scripted, but as men, once you learn to check yourself, you able to really heal and do things. You able to submit to God, and then you able to have healthier relationships with your wife, with your kids, and with other men. Like there's no ego here. We learning from each other, we sharing, we getting to know each other because we able to submit. We able to say, I don't know everything, I need help. And you got to check those feelings at the door. But if you can't do that, it makes it harder on everybody because you always feel like you're struggling and you always feel like you're the underdog or whatever. Man, we got to, like, I love what you said, live life. And we got to do that intentional and on purpose. And that's not just a slogan. It's every day got to matter. It's a lifestyle. Yeah.
It is. Let's get start from here. And like I said, I just don't want to stop here. I'm trying to connect with men that's already doing it, men that's doing it alone. You feel me? Like, man, I'm doing this and I've been doing it all by myself. Well, nah, we got some brothers coming. You know what I'm saying? We're going to tap in with you.
And it's like, I see people on top of us, the ancestors and people who are already successful, they reaching, you know what I mean? We reaching up to them, they reaching down to us, and we got a responsibility to do the same thing. But we can't do it stagnant. There's so many men just sitting, waiting on God to move, or waiting on that next come up, or whatever. And it's like, what are you doing? Who are you connecting yourself with?
Because ultimately what we do is we create excuses not to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, then that justifies why we didn't do it. Like,
right.
Oh, man, I want to do this. Well, I'm about to go do this. Oh, man, I ain't got the money to do it. You know what I'm saying? Or I got to do this, but I ain't got the time to do it. Or I want to be able to go to that meeting, but I got my kids. And then it's like these organizations are setting up places now where the kids can come with you. Like, you ain't got no excuse. Like,
like I'm about to wrap up, but I hear like, it's this, I don't know, it's a quote, whatever, but it's like when you think about God and Moses, he had told him what he can't do. You know what I mean? A lot of times in the Bible, we see men who always tell God what they can't do. I can't do this because I have this stutter. I can't do this because I'm scared. God was like, what's in your hand, Moses? Moses had a staff. God allowed Moses to use that staff to part the Red Sea. So as men, it's like, what's in our hand? Like, we sitting here with my phone right now. This is what we're using as a platform. Whatever you have in your hand, use. If you got a car, you can make money. If you have this, you have that. God is giving everybody a measure. And you got to use that. But we use excuses. Like anybody in the Bible could have said, nah, man, I can't do it because it's too stutter. It's too hard, whatever. But it's like, what did God place in your hand?
Man.
Use what he gave you and then go from there. You got to start somewhere.
That's dope. Because once I started to do it, man, it just gave me my wings. Like I dove off the cliff, and as I'm going, I'm gaining my wings to come back up. And it's like, man, it's dope. It's like connecting with you, then like I said, connecting with bro from the We Are Linden, and then like you said, just coming into the African American Male Wellness Organization, and you start to connect your those dots start to connect, and you like, man, you look up. Now I'm not only trying to start this in Columbus, I'm trying to take this to Buffalo, where I came from, because I felt like there was something that I had to do in Buffalo that I just didn't know. And then there's so many. I just went back this past weekend to drop my daughter up, and I'm seeing individuals I cross paths with, and they doing so many different things. It's like, bro, it's an untapped market in Buffalo. It's an untapped market in Detroit. It's an untapped market in Memphis, Tennessee, Mississippi, all around this country. Everybody, like, I want to be able to build a conglomerate. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just like I said, the African American Wellness, they just really it laid out the blueprint. Because for them to go from Columbus, do the walk down to Cincinnati, to do the walk to Cleveland, and then you just to see all those cities, it's an energy.
And it started from one place. It started from somebody saying yes. Like I had this, I didn't even know if I was gonna share it, but I'm gonna just read this real quick because you talked about wings, and this is something that God told me a while ago, and I just wrote it down. And it says, of course I struggle, I just don't quit. And it says, what you want exists, just don't settle until you get it. And you think about an airplane, it's like you were born to fly, you were created to ascend, you were designed to soar. Your purpose is to take people from one location to another. You are an aircraft carrier, you are a difference maker. But think about one aircraft looking at another aircraft. And you mad because somebody flying with them, not with you, when you were created to fly. You created to take passengers from one place to another, but we focused on they got more people, or that person got off my flight and went over there, or I don't have any passengers. It's like your purpose is to take people from one location to another. You are an aircraft carrier, you are a difference maker. When you're navigating the unfriendly skies, occasional there will be turbulence. How are you going to handle the turbulence? You were trained to handle a little shakiness, just keep flying. There will be people that flew with you that will decide to fly with someone else. Keep flying. There will also be people that desire to fly the unfriendly skies with you. So there's people that's going to jump off of your plane, but there's also going to be people who want to ride with you and be committed. You know what I mean? They're going to be members. No matter who's flying with you, 0 passengers or 350, always take off and get back in the air. You have a job to do. You have a calling and a purpose. The call on, always carry on. So remember that the arrow can only be shot by pulling backwards. So when life is dragging you back with difficulties, imagine that it's going to launch you into something great. And I thought about that, like, now it's a number of airplanes. It started off with the Wilbur brothers and they made one. Now you can choose which aircraft you want to fly on.
Yep.
You can be on a budget airplane or you can be on a VIP, but they all got the same purpose. So it's like for me and you to connect, you have your brand, you have what you're doing, I have what I'm doing. We can connect and collaborate because we still launching to take people to another level.
Yep.
But instead, people be ready to compete and be like, man, why is he taking off but I'm not? We always created to fly, so it's like just stay in your lane, and the people who gonna rock with you gonna rock with you.
Yeah, like you said, I learned from the older generation. You know what I mean? Like looking back at the Panthers. Panthers get shine. I mean, the light that really only gets shine on them is that